If you're on Social Security, there is a small window before your next payment arrives that can make the difference between peace of mind and a financial mess you did not see coming. And almost nobody talks about that window clearly enough. Most people think the hard part is getting approved. They think once the money starts coming, the system just keeps running quietly in the background forever. But that is not how this works. The truth is, some of the biggest problems Social Security recipients face do not begin with a denied claim. They begin after benefits have already started, when a person assumes everything is on autopilot, stops checking details, misses one notice, forgets to report one change, or trusts the wrong phone call. And by the time they realize something is wrong, the next payment is smaller, delayed, interrupted, or already spoken for. I want to say this right at the beginning because it is the part too many people learn too late. Your next Social Security payment is not just money coming in. It is also a checkpoint. A checkpoint for your bank information, your Medicare deductions, your account security, your reporting responsibilities, and the accuracy of everything the system thinks it knows about you. If even one of those pieces is off, your payment can be affected in ways that feel sudden, confusing, and unfair. Not always because somebody targeted you, and not always because the government made a random mistake, but often because nobody ever explained what smart recipients do before the money lands. Before you decide this only matters for retirees with large monthly checks, let me clear up the biggest myth right now. Some people hear Social Security recipient and picture only one type of person. Someone fully retired, living quietly, collecting a predictable amount every month, with nothing much changing. So if you receive survivor benefits, disability benefits, supplemental security income, or a smaller retirement check, you may assume this advice is not really for you. That would be a mistake. In fact, the people who most need to do these 5 things are often the ones with the least room for error. If your benefit is modest, one wrong deduction matters more. If you're on SSI, one reporting mistake can create an overpayment problem faster than you think. If you rely on Social Security to cover rent, groceries, prescriptions, or utilities, then the week before your next payment is not a casual moment. It is one of the most important financial windows in your month. And here is the part that makes this even more important. Smart Social Security recipients do not just wait for payment day and hope for the best. They prepare for it. They verify. They update. They protect. They check the amount before it hits the account, not after the damage is done. They treat every month like a quiet audit, because the people who stay ahead of problems usually spend less time fighting to fix them later. And the people who ignore this routine are the ones most likely to be blindsided by missing deposits, benefit reductions, scam calls, or letters they do not fully understand until it is too late. So today I'm going to walk you through the first 5 things every smart Social Security recipient does before their next payment arrives, in plain English, in the exact order that makes the most sense. These are not complicated tricks. They are the boring, powerful habits that keep your benefits stable, your stress lower, and your money harder to disrupt. And stay with me to the end, because the 5th move is the one that protects you from the kind of panic that causes people to hand their money away voluntarily to scammers while believing they are protecting it. The first thing every smart Social Security recipient does before the next payment is check the exact payment date and expected amount before the money arrives. Not after. Before. That sounds simple, but it is one of the most overlooked habits in this entire system. Too many people wait until the payment is late, short, or missing before they start paying attention. Smart recipients already know what day the deposit is supposed to come and roughly what amount should hit the account. That matters because Social Security payments follow a schedule, and that schedule depends in many cases on the beneficiary's birth date or the record they receive benefits on. If you do not know your date, you are always reacting. If you do know your date, you can spot a problem immediately. This matters even more because the amount is not always exactly what people expect. Medicare premiums can come out of a Social Security payment. Tax withholding can change what actually lands in your bank. Some people have older expectations in their head based on last year's amount, or they forget that a deduction has started, changed, or increased. Then when the deposit comes in lower than expected, they panic, assume fraud, or start making rushed decisions. Smart recipients avoid that by reviewing the expected payment ahead of time. They know whether the amount looks normal or whether something needs attention. That small habit creates calm, because it replaces surprise with awareness. And let me tell you who this helps the most. It helps the person whose budget is tight enough that even a small difference matters. It helps the person juggling utilities, medication, food, and rent. It helps the caregiver managing money for a parent who may not notice a missing payment right away. And it helps the person who has already had one surprise in the past and never wants to repeat that feeling again. There is real peace in knowing whether your deposit should arrive on the 1st, the 3rd, or one of the Wednesday payment dates, and in knowing what number you are actually watching for. The second thing every smart Social Security recipient does before the next payment is make sure their online access and direct deposit information are secure and up to date. This is not glamorous, but it is one of the highest value moves you can make. If your payment goes to the wrong account, to an old bank, or gets caught in confusion because your information was never updated, the stress that follows is immediate. The smartest people do not assume last month's setup is automatically safe forever. They verify that the bank account on file is correct, the contact information is current, and they can still access their Social Security account without any issue. This matters because your Social Security account is no longer just a nice extra. It is one of the fastest ways to see notices, review benefit information, confirm payment details, and manage certain updates without waiting for paper mail. And paper mail is exactly where many problems begin. A letter arrives late, gets misplaced, or sits unopened on a kitchen counter until the deadline has passed. Smart recipients reduce that risk by making sure they can access notices online and by paying attention before a problem becomes an emergency. If your mailing address changed, if your phone number changed, if you switched banks, if your card was replaced, if your joint account situation changed, this is the time to confirm everything, not after a deposit disappears into the wrong place. And here is the part people underestimate. A direct deposit mistake does not feel like an administrative issue when it happens. It feels like your lifeline just vanished. So the best time to prevent that panic is before the next payment. If your banking setup has changed recently, if your old account is closing, or if you have any doubt at all, handle it now. Smart recipients know that boring prevention is far easier than urgent recovery. The third thing every smart Social Security recipient does before the next payment is review every deduction and notice that could change the amount of money they actually receive. This is where many people get caught off guard. They know what their gross benefit is in theory, but they do not always know what is being taken out in practice. And those are two very different numbers. A person may think, my benefit is supposed to be this amount, while the bank account shows something else entirely because Medicare Part B, prescription-related adjustments, or tax withholding changed the net deposit. Then they spend hours trying to figure out whether the problem is fraud, a bank error, a government error, or something that was actually explained in a notice they never read carefully. Higher income beneficiaries, for example, can see larger Medicare-related deductions based on income information used for premium adjustments. Other people may have withholding they forgot they requested. Some may receive a notice connected to a change in benefit calculation, a premium issue, or another adjustment and not realize it affects the next payment. Smart recipients do not wait for confusion. They review notices before payment day. They pay attention to anything mentioning Medicare premiums, withholding, overpayments, or a change in payment amount. And if something looks wrong, they move early instead of assuming it will sort itself out. This habit is powerful because it stops emotional overreactions. A lot of people see a smaller payment and instantly assume the worst. But when you already know what is coming out and why, you are in control. And if you do not agree with a deduction or believe the information used is outdated, you at least catch it early enough to respond. That is a completely different position from finding out after the money is already gone and your bills are due. The smartest recipients do not just count on the deposit. They understand the deposit. The fourth thing every smart Social Security recipient does before the next payment is report any life, work, income, or living situation changes before those changes turn into an overpayment problem. This one is absolutely huge, and it is where some of the most expensive mistakes happen. Overpayments are not just an abstract government term. They are real money that Social Security says should not have been paid, and when that happens, the agency can try to collect it back. That is what shocks people. They think, if they sent it, it must have been correct. But that is not always how the system works. If Social Security did not have the right information about your work, your income, your marital status, where you live, or another important part of your situation, the amount sent to you may later be treated as too much. And once that overpayment process starts, it can become stressful fast. Letters arrive. Deadlines appear. Benefit withholding becomes a possibility. People suddenly discover they owe back money they already used on groceries, electricity, rent, or medicine months ago. That is why smart recipients understand one simple rule: changes are easiest to deal with before they become an overpayment. If you started working, your hours changed, your wages changed, you began receiving another type of payment that could affect benefits, your household arrangement changed, or something else in your personal situation shifted, report it promptly. Do not assume it is too small to matter. Do not assume they already know. Do not assume 1 month won't count. This is especially important for people receiving disability benefits or SSI, because income and work reporting can have a major effect. But even outside of those programs, the larger principle still holds. Smart recipients stay current. They do not leave loose ends hanging for months because they are afraid of paperwork or because they hope the issue will disappear. The best-case scenario is that you report and nothing changes. The worst-case scenario, if you stay silent, is that the issue grows quietly until you are dealing with a repayment notice at the exact moment you can least afford it. And that is why this step belongs before the next payment, not after the problem has already stacked up. Now we get to the fifth thing, and this one may be the most emotionally important of all. Every smart Social Security recipient protects their next payment from panic by assuming scam pressure will come before it does. In other words, they decide in advance what they will never do. They will never move money to protect it because a caller told them to. They will never trust a threat just because the caller ID looks official. They will never hand over sensitive information because someone created urgency. And they will never believe a surprise caller who says their Social Security number has been suspended, their benefits are about to be frozen, or they must act immediately to avoid arrest, loss, or investigation. This matters because scam calls work best when they hit someone unprepared, emotional, and afraid. And Social Security recipients are targeted precisely because the money is essential. Scammers know that if they can convince you your benefits are at risk, they can hijack your judgment for 5 minutes, and that is often all they need. They use fear, speed, authority, and confusion. They sound official. They use real agency names. Sometimes they even make the caller ID look legitimate. And once fear takes over, smart people do foolish things. They read out codes. They confirm personal information. They move money. They buy gift cards. They send cash. They follow instructions they would never trust under normal circumstances. So the smartest move is not simply recognizing a scam in the moment. It is having your rule before the phone rings. If anyone pressures you to move money to protect your benefits, it is a scam. If anyone threatens immediate punishment unless you act right now, slow down. If anyone asks for unusual payment methods, it is a scam. If anything feels engineered to make you panic before you think, stop the conversation and verify independently. This single habit protects not only your current payment, but your confidence. And confidence matters because fear is the real weapon in these scams. Now let me give you a few bonus moves for anyone who wants to take this from basic protection to real control. The first bonus move is to create a monthly 5-minute payment ritual. Not a big spreadsheet. Not an exhausting routine. Just 5 minutes before each payment cycle to check your payment date, expected amount, notices, deductions, and banking information. The second bonus move is to keep a simple benefit folder, whether digital or paper, where every important letter, amount change, and contact note lives in one place. People lose track of their own case history far more often than they realize, and that confusion becomes expensive later. The third bonus move is to make one trusted person aware of your system if you are older, ill, overwhelmed, or helping a family member manage benefits. Not everyone needs full financial access, but many people benefit from having one calm set of eyes who can help spot a bad letter, a suspicious call, or a missing deposit. Let me bring this down to a real-world kind of example. Imagine a woman named Carol, widowed, living mostly on Social Security and watching every dollar. A few years ago, she would wait passively for the deposit and hope it looked right. One month, a smaller amount landed, and it threw off everything. She spent days anxious, assuming someone had stolen from her. What changed later was not her benefit system. What changed was her routine. Before each payment, she started checking the date, the amount, her notices, and her account. She updated her mailing information after moving. She learned what Medicare was taking out. She stopped trusting caller ID. And once, when a letter looked confusing, she handled it before the next payment instead of letting it sit unopened. The result was not that life became perfect. The result was that surprises got smaller, and her confidence got bigger. That is really what these 5 habits buy you. Not just protection, but steadiness. Social Security is too important to treat casually. For millions of people, it is not extra money. It is the money that keeps the lights on, the prescriptions filled, the rent paid, and the month moving. Which means every preventable mistake matters. Every overlooked notice matters. Every unreported change matters. Every scam call matters. And every month you stay one step ahead matters too. So here is exactly what I want you to do before your next payment arrives. First, know your payment date and the amount you expect to receive. Second, make sure your online access, direct deposit, and contact information are all current and secure. Third, review deductions and any new notices so you understand the real amount coming in, not just the number in your memory. Fourth, report any changes in work, income, household, or personal situation before they grow into an overpayment problem. And fifth, decide right now that no phone call, text, email, or surprise message will ever rush you into moving money or sharing sensitive information out of fear. Do those 5 things and you immediately become smarter than the average recipient who simply waits and reacts. You stop being the person who finds out late. You become the person who sees issues early. And that shift is more valuable than most people understand, because with Social Security, the biggest wins are often not dramatic. They are quiet. A payment that arrives on time because the bank information was right. A deduction that did not shock you because you already reviewed it. An overpayment that never happened because you reported a change quickly. A scam that failed because you refused to panic. One last thing before I close. This is general educational information, not personal legal, tax, or benefits advice. Social Security rules can vary depending on whether you receive retirement, survivor, disability, or SSI benefits, and your personal facts always matter. But the habits themselves are universal. Verify early. Update early. Report early. Protect early. Because when your next payment matters as much as it does for most people, "I'll deal with it later," is one of the most expensive phrases in the world.